it's almost like when you're in the public relations world, you have to have a semi-psychology degree, a semi-legal degree, a all these different things too. But it's definitely emotions and relationships are really the biggest part of this.
Welcome to the RV Entrepreneur Podcast, the weekly show for nomads, work campers, RVers, and entrepreneurs looking to earn a living or build a business while enjoying the RV lifestyle. This week's host is Glenn Willard. Let's settle in and enjoy the RV Entrepreneur Podcast, brought to you by RV Life.
Welcome to the RV Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Glenn Willard, your host this week, and today we have Jessica Walker, the driving force behind Jess Lifestyle Marketing, a marketing and PR powerhouse who's built her business on the open road, running it all from her RV. For over 20 years, Jessica has been helping businesses like yours build powerful brands and connect with their audience through tailored marketing and PR solutions. From crafting compelling press releases to developing strategic social media campaigns, managing your online reputation, and everything in between, Jessica offers a comprehensive suite of services designed to drive results, all while navigating the country. We'll be diving into how she built her incredible business and the challenges and unique perspectives of working from an RV like many of you. So get ready to learn from a true expert who combines experience, education, a genuine passion for helping businesses thrive, and a serious sense of adventure.
This episode is made possible by Travelfy. Want reliable internet without the hassle? Meet Travelfy. It's portable, high-speed Wi-Fi that's ready to go wherever you are. From road trips to remote cabins. No tricky setup or permanent location required. Just plug in and you're connected. And here's the best part. No contracts, no commitments, and no reactivation fees. Pay only for the months you need. Travelfy connects to the strongest available signal among multiple major networks, so you stay online with confidence, backed by a US-based support team that knows the outdoor lifestyle. Travelfy, simplifying internet while you travel. Visit travelfy.com today. That's TRAVLFI.com. Listeners can save 15% with code RVE at checkout.
Hello, Jess, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. And you already told me that you are joining us from the gorgeous state of Kentucky, which is an underrated state. Are you having a great time there?
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful. I mean, we love to be outdoors and hiking, and there's just a lot to see here and a lot of outdoor activities. So we still have several more days to get to know the area. So we're looking forward to it.
Living the true RV lifestyle, right?
Yes.
I miss it so much being in a house now.
Yeah.
So you own a business called Jess Lifestyle Marketing, and you are a specialist with marketing and PR. Tell me a little more about your business and what you do.
Absolutely. So I've been in the marketing and PR industry for over 20 years. A lot has changed since I've been in it, and I've always worked for a company, managing their brand, managing their reputation, helping them to kind of get their services or products or information out into the world to their target audiences, helping them to stay on top of trends and what's going around. And a few years ago, we kind of, fell into, the RV lifestyle. We traveled a lot. We really realized what was out there and saw other people doing it full time. And over the last 2-3 years, we started looking at that as an option. And while my employer at the time was open to allowing me to work remote, I would still have to be in South Florida for part of the year. And it just ended up being a little bit challenging. And so I decided, well, I've got all of this background and experience and education, let me try to go out on my own and offer the services as a consultant. So I can control my schedule a little better. I can control the projects and have more creativity, ownership of things. And it just kind of evolved from there. It's been about a year. I think this month is a year that I launched Jess Lifestyle Marketing. And it's new, after being in this industry for so long and working for other companies, it's exciting. It's stressful. It's, exhilarating. It's all the feelings because it's something completely out of my realm, but I've really enjoyed it. And just offering the public relations and the marketing, helping people and businesses, no matter the size of project, succeed with getting their brand out into the world. And so it's it's definitely been a journey, and I look forward to doing it a lot more. So hopefully that gives you a little insight into it.
That's very insightful. Do you now, when you're doing something on your own versus working for a company, there's that handful of other issues that creep in, the entrepreneurial issues. Do you mind them? Do you enjoy them? Do you embrace that?
Like the entrepreneurial side
Yes.
of things? Yes. So both sides have pros and cons. It was always nice to, work for an organization because you didn't have the overhead, you didn't have a lot of the responsibility of things. But it's nice, having the solo side of it, while yes, you've got to work and recruit clients, you have to get those people on board. But it's been interesting for me, especially having spent my entire career working for other companies, and having that creativity. With marketing and PR, there's a lot of change and a lot of trends. And so sometimes trying to bring those into a business that's not ready for that or not comfortable with that can be a bit of an uphill battle. And so, when you want to explore those and kind of help them understand how those things are going to help their business succeed, and get pushback a little bit, it's hard. But running your own business, being an entrepreneur, solopreneur, helps me to kind of pick and choose those projects and really help clients take that leap and understand why it's going to help them or what it's going to do for them, and explore a lot of the new things. So it's got both sides to it. And I try to keep my business as just myself. I'm not looking to grow it and have employees. I'm looking to do this as something I'm passionate about. I love this industry. I love doing what I do. And this is allowing me to control my schedule so I can have a stronger work-life balance, but also letting me do creative things and unique things, and trying out stuff, getting to write a little bit more creatively for clients and not be restricted to certain topics or certain things. So it's definitely opened me up to have that freedom and to just feel a lot lighter, I guess.
A lot lighter. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing when you're not confined by these borders put forth by whatever corporation you're working for, and you can be incredibly creative? And you said something earlier that was really powerful to me, is that, and it's something I did in my last business after I left that semi-corporate world and opened mine, where I could pick and choose who I wanted to. It wasn't a matter of you need to work with this client because we're employing you to work with this client. And it feels so good to only work with the ones that you're passionate about. Because don't you feel like you can put so much more energy
Mm-hmm.
and real life into their projects? So,
Oh yeah. I mean, it is. It's an amazing feeling, and learning about different companies and industries and just, I like that new learning and that new growth. And there's so much out there, not just in marketing and PR, with technology and AI and all of the things. There's so much growth opportunity for every industry. And so having the ability to really explore that and embrace that is really nice. And like I said, picking and choosing, you don't have to work with somebody just because you're being told to. It just gives you that freedom and don't get me wrong, you find even with your favorite clients, there's frustrating times, but that's, it's just like life. You have everything ups and downs, and a lot of it's external factors, but you're still doing what you love and what you're passionate about. So it helps.
For sure. I think we are, and you're right, we're on this precipice of massive changes coming through with AI, financial systems, economy. Everything feels like it's about to have a huge change. Do you feel like if you were still working in the corporate world that you could have explored the use of some of these technologies as easily and as in depth as you are now?
In some of them. So the interesting thing by being in public relations, which is where most of my focus lands, marketing, I'm very, experienced in as well. But in public relations, I've worked in a variety of industries, because once you learn the skills, you're able to apply those, because it's strategic steps to any industry. I've worked for retirement communities. I worked for accounting firms. I worked for engineering firms, nonprofits. I think it depends on the industry, the corporation, whoever it is you're working for, and their comfort level. So in some organizations, yes, you could. I probably could have had more flexibility and freedom with doing some of those newer things. And in some of them, I think there's just caution, not that they don't want to do it, but it's new, it's foreign, and it just the unknown, and change is hard for most to step into. So I think in many cases you can, and when you are able to express why you need to explore these things, and you can rationalize and give that supportive evidence as to this is going to do X for you, or put you ahead of your competitors, or at least in line with your competitors. I think as long as you can express that to some of those audiences and some of those companies, it helps, because they always want to look at bottom line, and marketing and PR can sometimes be harder to track. And so you have to be able to use that strategic method of showing them how it will work.
So you're not just the salesperson for the client, you're the salesperson for the employer too.
Yes.
And convincing them. We're all salespeople as far as I'm concerned. We're convincing someone to do something. Now, okay, speaking of sales, do you find now, did you have to handle the sales when you worked in the corporate world like you do now?
Not necessarily the sales. And most of my, corporate industries have been like the service industries and stuff like that, like the, accounting and things of that nature, consulting, business consulting for clients that they had. And so a lot of it is that business development is what they look at it, not necessarily sales. And a lot of it is it's a slow burn almost. It takes a while for clients in some of those situations to come on board. It's not like you see an ad in a article or something for this product that you think will be great and you go out and buy it right away, where you see that instant, there was an ad, they made a purchase. Service stuff, when it's banking, accounting, legal, financial, people don't just make those snap decisions. It's a slow burn to build that relationship. And so that's where your branding and your exposure and awareness is important, is because some of the things people offer, they're not going to just snap and do it right away. You have to show them who you are and that they can trust the experience you're bringing to the table, which all the organizations I've worked with have been great and had that. And so it's just nice when, after a amount of time, I could show them, hey, remember how I told you going to all these events was going to pay off? Well, now this person's ready to make a switch to, bring their business here. And even though it's been a year, it's going to be a significant account type of thing.
True. Spoken like a true expert in PR and marketing.
Yeah. Well, and alluding back to what you said too, for the, clients and the business, like working with both of them is one thing people always forget about when they're focused on promoting their business, is that it's not just promoting it to your clients and your customers. Your employees or your team members are also considered a target audience, with a whole different realm of ways of sharing your messaging and brand with them internally, so that they can continue and be consistent when they're out in the world. If somebody knows they work for the organization, then they've been versed and catered to as well as an audience and treated, in that same way. So your target audience is internal as well.
That's such a great point. Okay, go on, what is it, Glassdoor, whatever, some of those, job applications, and see everyone's complaint about the company they work for. They feel like they're left out in the dust and no one pays attention to them. I was adamant in my last business that it wasn't the decision of my staff where we went, but they were part of the decision process, and they were family, and they were, everyone was treated as though everything they're bringing to the table is just as important as to what I'm bringing to the table. And so I'm glad you pointed that out, because it's not just about, marketing to your potential new clients. It's the people who are, lifting you up. Yeah. So
it's that culture. You got to have a very good culture. And leaders, usually are right there in the mix with you, doing the things with you, not just delegating them to you. A good leader would be somebody that would jump in and do it with you regardless, if necessary, and so you have to treat, you have different audiences all around, whether it's customers, clients, business partners, board members, employees. They're all an audience, and they all have different ways to market and promote to them in a sense.
Very true. Yeah, I think I said it in one of my last podcasts that in my last business, it was an epiphany for me because early on, one of my staff came up to me and said, you know what, Glenn, you know why I like working with you or here at Paradigm? And I was like, no, what do you like? He's like, because you work with us. You don't work above us. As soon as something needs to be done, you roll your sleeves up and join us and help. And I've never experienced that anywhere I went. I was like, wow. And it was one of those light bulb moments. So, I mean, you are speaking what you need to teach some of these, these businesses and help them with. Okay. I want to circle back to the sales thing because it's constantly on my mind. In your position, how do you find and acquire new clients for your business?
So that's a learning curve for me, especially, having spent my entire career just working for someone. It's not been something I've had to get out and seek on my own. Luckily, I've worked for businesses that were doing business consulting, so I did have some exposure of how that kind of works for them. I worked most of my career, or pretty much majority of it, in Southwest Florida. And in marketing and public relations, you form relationships with other businesses, other people. You have to be able to support each other. It's a very community-based situation. And so my experiences right now, the clients that I'm working with are all from that region because they know me. They know what I can do, how I can help them. And so they've reached out to me and asked, to come on as a client for either a single project or for a long term. I offer both. And so right now it's the people that have known me, but I'm trying to get more exposure, especially in the RV community and, with campgrounds and different groups like that, I can help, with branding and promoting their brand, their company, their services. So right now it's just trying to build those relationships online, in person, and I don't keep ideas to myself. So if I'm, around somebody that's running a business or doing something and they want to jump on a phone call and, hey, what do you think about this? Like just brainstorming and sharing ideas, I am open to, let's just have a conversation. You're not a client. I just want to help. I want to, give you some ideas that you can take and run with down the line. If you need help running with them, I'm here to help make those implementations happen. But I like to, share thoughts and ideas as we're sitting with different groups, on this journey. If I meet people that run a business and they're like, I don't know how to do X, I'm like, well, if you try 1, 2, and 3, that might help. And just giving that free guidance, I guess. And the other thing too is connecting people to each other, which is a big thing I did back in Southwest Florida. When you're going to events and meeting people, you hear everybody has different needs and they don't always need what I'm offering, but I know 2 or 3 other people that offer what they're looking for. And so it's just being a connector to help people get their goals met, their success, achieved by connecting them with the right people for them. I do that too. I'm subscribed to get like reporter requests. So I see regularly different reporters will pitch to this program. Hey, we're looking for experts on this topic or that topic. And I have a bunch of keywords in there that aren't just for my clients, but for people that I know or friends of mine that I trust and think have great expertise. And when I get one of those, even though it doesn't pay me at all, anything, I forward it to them and say, hey, there's this publication looking to speak to somebody about this topic. And I think that it would be a good fit for you. Would you be interested? If so, I can connect you to the reporter type of thing. And so it's just that, give back type of thing. You do enough of that, good things for other people. Karma's got to come back around.
Great way to put it is karma, and that give to get. I think, you're planting seeds and not, so what if they never come back to you? Because Absolutely. The good that you've done spreads that karma throughout the universe. And I feel like that's, always doing something with the expectation that you're going to get something in return is not a good way to go through life.
No.
So I like hearing what you're doing. It's, I even back to that, I built my business on giving a little and really, really caring and helping. It sounds like you've got that nailed down. Wow.
I hope so. It's takes time. Anything, does. And when you want to do something right, it's gonna take time. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's just building those relationships, and marketing and public relations are very strongly tied to emotion for people. And so it's understanding that it's almost like when you're in the public relations world, you have to have a semi-psychology degree, a semi-legal degree, all these different things to process it pretty well and understand the things you can do, the things you can't do, and how to get to the end goal. But it's definitely emotions and relationships are really the biggest part of this.
Hey RVers, let's be real. Your RV shower head isn't great. And even if you swapped it out for something better, chances are it's just a shinier version of the same old thing. And if you're really lucky, those stiff hose kind of let you get wet, but definitely not where you want it. That's where Waterpik comes in. A global leader in water technology, they've designed the Transform RV showerhead to change the way you shower on the road, making it easier and more efficient to shower in tight RV spaces. While other RV showerheads have limited spray adjustments, the Transform RV's unique 360-degree pivoting head allows you to customize to any spray angle without having to remove it from the bracket. This means you can reach your desired spray area and shower with both hands free. This shower head doesn't just work better, it feels better. It's engineered to deliver powerful, consistent water flow. Its multiple spray settings are optimized to get the most out of your water tank. And with the new trickle switch, you can conserve water without that shocking blast of cold or hot water when you turn it back on. It's available in white, chrome, and nickel. The Waterpik Transform RV Showerhead is ready to upgrade your RV shower. Head over to Amazon and check it out now.
I never thought about that. As I knew relationships and networking and branding, but I never thought about the emotional aspect to this. And, when you talk about having a hat in psychology and sociology and it's so important. That's cool.
Yeah. But you have to think, everybody, especially, I was speaking at a conference recently and talking about, trying to leverage yourself above others in a competitive, positive way. But everybody has a preference. So whether it's Coca-Cola or Pepsi, whether it's Walmart or Target, whether it's Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, like everybody has a preference one over the other. And think about why is that? Why do you prefer to go to Starbucks or to go to Target? There's an emotional tie of some sort to that. And so figuring out what that is for your target audience and tapping into that or letting them know that that is there for them is, what comes down to public relations, because public relations is more that organic. Marketing is more that paid. So when you think marketing, it's ads being placed, it's commercials being made, it's those types of things. But public relations is what we call the earned media, and it's earned and organic through those relationships and emotions building through.
Organically building emotional ties.
Yep.
Yes. That's why organic, I think, is so much more powerful than any money spent.
Absolutely.
There's no such thing as bad press. Well, there's a lot to be said for press coverage or whatever else, So
absolutely.
I remember spending very little on marketing in my first business, but I had a media kit that was going out to every newspaper, and it worked, and it cost me nothing.
Yeah. It's, and the other thing for companies or businesses to think about too, if they want to spend marketing dollars, is one of the things that I kind of use, especially in the social media planning when I work with clients, is a three-pronged approach. I do like the resource, what you have to know for the business. I do the personal, who you are that's running the business, and then the community. And so you want that three-pronged approach in there so that you can, show a fully rounded out business for that. And the reason I mentioned the paying for marketing is that a lot of people think, I need to place an ad in a magazine. I need to spend $1,000 or $1,500 on something like that your target audience might see. Whereas if you're focusing on that community balance of where you're at or who you're with, and you can take those marketing dollars and say, sponsor something for a nonprofit, an event that they're doing that's tied to your mission or your goals, then your ad is usually put in a program. Your logo is usually splashed everywhere. You can attend the event if it's an event. And if you're sponsoring the right type of groups, your target audience is the group in attendance at that. So you're getting that, direct quote or direct connection rather to them. So it helps you spend those dollars and support the community and really hone in on your target audience. You can spend the same amount of money and probably get a lot more leeway or leverage rather out of doing something like that that's more targeted versus just putting it in a business magazine or an RV magazine or anything and hoping that the people will catch it when they're flipping pages.
Well said. Have you ever had any clients that are opposed and just want to spend $1 on an ad?
No, I think that once they see it that way, and especially the companies I worked for, they've been looking for particular clients, usually, especially in service industries like accounting or banking or, consulting. They're looking for businesses that have the money to spend for those types of services. And so a lot of them are supporting different nonprofits, different community organizations, activities and events or initiatives. And so you're kind of reaching into it. Once they see that, they're like, oh, well, not only do I get my ad in a program, I get mentioned in the lead up to it, I get mentioned in the after, recaps of it, and I get to go and meet people in person that maybe haven't heard about our business and just rub elbows and shake hands and kind of learn more. So I've not ever gotten pushback on that. And it's been a cool way of doing things. And it's definitely not a negative towards doing the regular marketing ads. If you have the money to do both, do both. But if you are really trying to hone in on your target audience, figuring out if that would be an opportunity to really get better exposure for your brand among the people you want to see versus, trying to hit as many in that publication that, when I'm flipping through magazines, I'm usually flipping past a lot of ads unless something really creative catches my eye. So it's just one of those that, and that ties into my 3-pronged approach, because people want to work with somebody that they have a relationship with or that they're comfortable with, whatever the service is. So if you're sharing, take accounting, for example, if you're sharing the required information as far as IRS, tax time, deadlines, things like that people need to know, that's important. If you're sharing, details about the accountants and descriptions of who they are and letting people get to know them as people, they feel comfortable. And then you're showing the investment in the community. A lot of those people support the same groups or nonprofits. So then they have that connection to you as well. And so they get to know and build that relationship and trust with you and the brand because they see a fully rounded out picture rather than just here's the tax info or here's the newest laws, and stuff like that.
This 3-pronged approach is very powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can tell. Is this something that you have cultivated, or is it part of your educational background? And I do want to circle back to, you have a fantastic, education, and academia was a big part of your life for a while.
Yes.
Do you think that it really helps you, or do you feel like you learned as much working for the corporation and then for yourself as you did in school?
I think that working for the corporation was very helpful. It gave a lot of opportunity and insight. And there's been a lot of change since I was in school. I mean, when I was done with my degree, there was no social media. So, you've had to work along and adapt along the way. And so having the, working for the companies, and as I've said, I've always had great companies to work for. It's helped me to really try things out, to expand my experience, have that support. And so it's just been helpful to kind of do that and seeing, how that approach, the 3-pronged approach, has been helpful in that, because as we said earlier, it's relationships and emotional. People aren't just going to come and give a bank their money just because it's got a great logo. They want to feel like the bank is a trustworthy place. If they need legal advice, they're not just going to in most cases, pick an ad out of a magazine or something. They want to do a little research and understand who they're working with in a majority of the cases.
For sure. Well, it sounds like, because I was going to ask you, how much has your work evolved between now and working for the corporations? And it sounds like the biggest evolution has been in social media and all of this completely different approach to organic marketing.
Yeah, definitely. Social media has been the biggest thing in the last 15 to 20 years, just because, well, really the 10 to 15, probably more so, with Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and the whole host of others that pop up and come and go. And then we're in a whole nother transition period right now in the last 2 years with the availability of, things like ChatGPT and AI technology to anybody. AI technology has been around for as long as social media. It's just not been as accessible, I think, to the public as it is now in the ways that a lot of us use it. And so it's just understanding how to use that and be collaborative with it. Don't resist it, but don't fully fall into it. You have to be able to use it as a tool. I use it as brainstorming. I get ideas, and if I'm writing out something quick, I might say, hey, can you give me some suggestions on how to tighten this up or clean this up? And then it just gets my mind rolling to continue working on it. But I never take anything that it gives me as the gospel, just because, it's, I forget what they call it, like hallucinations. ChatGPT will have hallucinations, which means it's incorrect. So you always have to do it as a tool and then follow up with it. And that's the big thing. Just like social media was a big shift for that organic, people had that ability to engage with you a little more. ChatGPT, AI, there's so many others that are similar to that out there. They're making that shift happen again and causing everyone to really learn how to use this properly and still use it. But not violate any copyright or anything like that.
That's
so
always
the challenge.
That's the tightrope to walk, is to not violate those copyright laws. Right. I feel like we're constantly getting disrupted, don't you? Like every year, something has improved so much that we're disrupted and we have to relearn. And, I like that this is supplemental. It's a tool.
Yes.
I do not want to rely on AI for something that my brain has been able to put out in the past, because I feel like we're just going to get dumber and dumber because we're not exercising those neurons the way we need to.
Right.
So,
I love definitely.
So where do you think it's going to go when it comes to PR and marketing with all of these rapid disruptions and changes? What do you think is going to happen to the industry?
It's really hard to dive too far into the future on that, because, you still need that human touch. You still need, as we talked about before, that emotion and those relationships. You still have to have that when it comes to public relations and marketing. And so hopefully, my hope is that there's an understanding as we go through, the next 5 or 10 years, to use that just as a tool and not let it just take over and write everything and do everything for us. I know, obviously, we've had tools that can scan for plagiarism and things of that nature. And so maybe it's having more things like that come through to help protect, not the industry per se, but the people involved. Because in marketing and PR and in many business owner cases, okay, I can't just take it word for word verbatim. This could be somebody else's. It could be copyrighted. You want to make sure, you're looking for that. As a marketing and PR person, don't just grab a photo off of the internet to use in one of your ads because you didn't take that. But it's not something that's so readily known, maybe to people that are, doing other things, or kids that are going to school. Oh, well, this is here. Let me grab that and use that. And it opens that door. So maybe just having, hopefully, as we advance in this, more tools and educational opportunities will come through to help people understand how to use it and not face any challenges or consequences, things of that nature, because it's out there. And that's where I say PR also has to have a little bit of a legal understanding, is that you have to know your your libel, your copyright, all the things that you can't violate that's going to open the door for a crisis, which you want to avoid.
Big time.
You can handle those, but you'd prefer not to.
Absolutely.
And I want to say too, with social media, amongst that big change. So when you think back to public relations in the earlier days, it was always TV, magazine, newspaper. And when you think about that, that's one-way communication. That's businesses speaking to the clients. That's it. They tell you what they want to tell you, and you don't have anything to say back. Social media opened that door for two-way communication. It helps people to have a voice in what they care about and what they purchase, what they're participating in. And that's where public relations is a big, big part of things, is it has that two-way communication. You're obviously speaking on behalf of your business or your client, but you also represent the people that you're marketing to as well. And so you want to make sure that, you're not just being deaf to what they're looking for. And that only helps businesses do better when they understand what their customers, their clients, their consumers are passionate about, what's working, what's not. And of course, two-way communication opens up, the negative feedback you get at times with people that are just wanting to complain. But a majority of it gives you that opportunity for growth and bettering yourself.
Absolutely. Do you feel like, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the two-way communication that has opened up for businesses and the consumer is probably the most powerful thing that has come from the changes in marketing. Yeah,
it is. And like Google reviews, Facebook reviews, for certain companies, all the certain reviews like TripAdvisor and all of those things, they give your consumers and your customers a voice. And that is a big, big shift in, the last 10 or 15 years, is that your customers, your consumers can tell you what they're thinking. And you don't just have the luxury of saying, you're going to like this. This is what we're going to sell. This is how it's going to be. They can tell you, well, what would make it better is if you changed this or tweak this. And again, that only opens the door for growth. Just like anything, you'll have the pros and cons to it. And same with Google reviews. I always tell clients, look, if you have a Google review, respond to all of them, good or bad, because even if you have a negative one, people that are doing their research are reading the reviews, good and bad. And if they see that you're taking the initiative to reply to negative reviews as well as positive and trying to rectify or correct the situation, or at least open that door for conversation with the person that was unhappy, it might make them feel a little easy. Well, yeah, that person had a bad experience, but what? The company is trying to reach out to them and say, hey, call us, talk to us, tell us, how we can help, this be better in the future, or things like that. And so while you might not have that perfect 5-star rating, people might still work with you, even seeing those negative reviews, because they see that you take the time to talk to your audience, good and bad.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like it softens the blow of a 2-star review. And at what other point in time could you have actually, as the business owner, been able to apologize to them and come out publicly saying, oh, I see where we messed up. This is where we're going to fixing. I mean, at no other time could you have done that. And everyone's view. So I think it's exciting. I love what opportunities social media has come, which puts it right in the forefront of your business. And trust me, AI is not going to take away anything that you do. It's only going to help your business. That personal touch that you bring to it is so, so important. And whether it's a huge company you're working for or a tiny company, I think the only difference is the number of zeros behind what you charge. So, have you, you're running this from an RV, and from my perspective, living in an RV for a couple of years, is that some would say, how can you operate a business out of that? I see it from your perspective as you can walk into so many businesses all over the country and see a need, see a problem that's not being addressed. And it's one business card and conversation away from a new client. And then in 2 weeks, you're going to be 200 miles away and doing it again. That's such an advantage.
It is. It definitely is. And I like it because I get to see different things and I get to learn about different places. It's when you're in one place all the time, you only know what's around you. But exploring, I mean, especially being in Florida, everything's flat. You go out west and there's hills and mountains and forests and all these, amazing things there as well. And so there's just so much more out there that we don't know about. And that works for businesses too. It's not just the landscape. There's so much more out there as far as business world and people trying to succeed and offer great products or services to others and, just have that successful growth.
Yes. Think about what, from my perspective, hiring you. I know that you travel the country. Now you know all of these different demographics. You understand the need of the client that you're maybe trying to sell to who's in California and I'm in Delaware. It's so powerful to see that. I can't tell you how many times people are like, why did you stay in Arizona? There's so many wildfires. I'm like, there were like 2 wildfires. And, what you hear is that the whole state's on fire, but the whole state's not on fire. And, especially here in like near Philadelphia and Manhattan, it's like, oh, I wouldn't go out west and see it. Like there are so many good people. We found nothing but good. And I bet you found the same thing. So
in the camping world, it's just so
right.
refreshing. I mean, it's not to say that it's not in other places. But everybody's just so, connecting. They're so social. You would think when you're camping, you just are at your campsite. But whenever you get set up somewhere, you meet a whole nother group of people. You learn a whole new host of things, not only about the area you're in, but the area they're from.
Are you ready to elevate your RVing adventures? With RV Life Pro, you're not just getting a service. You're gaining a reliable companion for your journey. From planning your trips with precision to navigating with confidence and even connecting with a vibrant community of fellow RV enthusiasts, RV Life Pro is your all-in-one solution. Don't just dream about the perfect adventure, live it. Visit RVLife.com today and discover how RV Life can enhance your RVing experience.
It's nice to learn about other people's cultures, businesses, experiences, and know that there's just so much out there. And marketing out to different groups and helping people understand, because media wants to report good news, but most of what you see is the exciting stuff that's usually probably not the best. Like you're saying, the wildfires and things that scare you to go to big cities or stuff of that nature. But there's so much more out there than that. And helping to kind of spread that is what, I'm hoping to do with the business and working with clients, and get that going. And my husband and I have a travel, social media accounts as well, where we like to share details about where we're at. And we're usually making photo carousels or videos of things that we're not getting paid for. It's just, it was fun for us. We want to share that experience in case somebody comes to the area and wants to do it down the line. It's that giving back just because it's a good thing to do,
The world needs a lot more of that.
Yeah.
Giving back.
Definitely does.
Don't you feel like every single person you meet, whether you're boondocking or in a campground, every new person you meet just opens your world to a completely different perspective, and how exciting it is to learn their story and to get an idea of what they've come from, what makes them tick, and then from your perspective, this is like university education all over again of what people want.
Yeah.
So. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent there because I'm excited by that. That's just it's so cool.
It's exciting to do. And you know what? If you'd have asked me 5 years ago if I thought I'd be living full time in an RV, I would have said never would have crossed my mind. And when my husband retired and wanted to take the big RV trip, we camped when our girls were little. And we did, being in Florida, once they got older, we switched from camping to boating, and now we went back to camping. When he retired, and we just loved it. And then we came across this phenomenon of living full time, and after a few long trips, we're like, we could do this. And it really is nice. And actually, when we are in a place for a couple of months, we get a little antsy because we're like, we're ready to go and see and do other things. So it's life changes all along, not just with the technology in the business world. It changes in what people want to see and do and prefer to have in their life. And it's exciting. I learned to live a little bit more as in the day, in the moment now, than trying to figure out what 5 or 10 years from now will look like.
In the moment. Yes.
In the moment.
In the moment. So now we're talking about all these awesome positives and the living that full-time RV adventure. Have you found any challenges along the road to running
of course,
specifically to running the business, not just living in an RV?
Yeah. Yeah. No, of course, anything's going to have the good and the bad. There's nothing that's perfect out there. And, we've figured out ways to run the business. And of course, you need a reliable internet. And so we use Starlink a lot when we're stationary. I don't have it mounted to the RV. And then we use Travelify when we're moving because it'll bounce across different cellular services. So it's having that reliability on the internet. And that's not always going to be the case. We've been in areas where it's not been, working as well. And so that's why I try to look ahead. If I have meetings or streaming videos like this or anything like that, I check to see, okay, what is it going to look like there? Am I going to have a clear shot of the sky that makes the internet happy? And making sure, trying to plan a little bit more ahead. You can plan meetings. I know we all do that, whether we're stationary or living in an RV. But in the RV, you have to take that extra step of, okay, well, what's it going to look like? Am I going to have the strong connection? So it's doing those types of things, making sure that you're accessible when people need you, because we're outdoorsy. We like to hike. We go to the national parks, the state parks. We were whitewater rafting the other day. So I'm not always on my phone either. And so it's trying to balance that and make sure that I've gotten everything buttoned up before I'm offline for a few hours or for a day, so that there's nothing that comes through. Because with clients and marketing and public relations, you have the media relations side. And so you want to make sure that if there's anything you're working with a reporter on or a story on, that you've gotten everything buttoned up beforehand so that, hopefully there's no need to get in touch with you for a little while.
Just like real estate, time is of the essence of those things. So being away from your phone could be dangerous for business. But that being said, you've got to live. And I feel like if you live in a house and you're not in an RV, you're so routined that you're almost always on your phone. You're almost always near your email. Sure, that's great for business. But for your own psychological well-being, being able to put it down and go hike, go whitewater rafting, or moving day, moving day is a big one that's not taken into account. I remember completely, telling clients, or I'll be offline during these times. I'm moving that day. Yep. And then of course, 2 weeks in advance, you're looking at every boondocking site in that region saying, okay, the Wi-Fi or the cell signal is the strongest here. So it sadly, that weighted where we stayed a lot of the times. And I will admit there are times I'm like, I just need a break. And, you go nestle yourselves in the mountains where there's zero signal, which is wonderful.
You have to be forced into it sometimes almost, and when I had my little waterproof case and everything. I was going to take it with me, and I talked to the guide, and he's like, it'll hook to the boat, but somebody could step on it. And I'm like, yeah, well, and I said, you're doing this every day. Would I even have signal down the river? And he's like, no. And I'm like, then I'll just put it in the car, and it's a weird feeling. It took me a little bit. I told my husband, I'm like, I don't know what time it is. I don't have my watch on. I don't have my phone. I can't do all of this. So, but it's also fun because then that was it. You were with nature, and even hiking, you can occasionally get signals, so I can check on things here and there. But just being out in nature is what we enjoy. Biking, hiking, all the different things of that nature. And that's why we love this lifestyle. And that's why I like the flexibility of my schedule, is that if I'm very structured in a calendar, I'm structured with deadlines. And I tell my clients that. I'm like, you can't just call me the morning of and say, hey, can you throw this email together? You guys are in a business where you can schedule certain things. It's not, a last minute stuff. These things are things that can be planned. And if I know a deadline, I will hit that deadline. I might go do fun stuff during the day and be working at night, but I will always hit my deadlines because I know that's there. And so that's why I like this lifestyle and having my own business, is I can go and do those fun things during a weekday when parks aren't as busy on the weekends, and then I come home in the evening and I work for a few hours and get stuff knocked out. It's just very, invigorating. It's very exciting.
I was going to ask how you organized your time, but you've already fully disclosed that. And doesn't it feel amazing? I mean, I'm an early bird. It sounds like maybe you're more of a night owl, but I loved to be up at 5 to get, a couple hours of work done, then go on the sunrise hike, then make dinner or breakfast for the kids, and then do a little bit more work, and then go do something fun for the day. And how much pressure? I mean, you're so efficient when you have that scheduled and you're going hiking at 1:00 or whatever happens, you get things done. You don't waste time. You don't stare at a screen. So it really is nice to have that. You're not structured to say, oh, you have to be online from 9 to 5, well, for what? Because there might be dead times and things not to do. That you could be out exploring and doing some things. And I know people always want to say, oh, you live in an RV, every day is a vacation. Well, that's not the case either. You could say when I lived in Florida, I was near the beach, so I was always on vacation. But, I just get to work in a lot of beautiful places, and I take the time to go explore them when I'm not working on projects. Or if the weather's crummy, we're going to have rain this afternoon, so I'm going to work on a lot of stuff today so that the next several days we can really get out and explore the area and kind of see how things are going, which I'm glad it's not raining right now, because you would definitely hear it on the roof. Oh, I didn't
remember
think about that. I remember that very well. Well, now we have a camper van. You should hear that inside when it's raining.
Yeah.
That's twice as loud as our last RV.
I can imagine.
Have you, I'm circling back a little bit. Have you ever come across a client where they've had like a damaged reputation and you've had to step in and fix things?
I've not come across one in like a personal experience, but in public relations, part of the education and experience you get is in crisis communications, because you have to be able to guide people when there is a crisis, whether it's something, like a hurricane in Florida, or whether it's a financial thing that somebody has created themselves. You have to be ready for that. And of course, as a PR person, being involved with, the owners, the leadership, whoever, no matter the size of the business, being involved with the decision makers and understanding a lot of what's happening in the company helps, because you can sometimes see some of those things in advance and kind of prepare. I mean, hurricanes, you're not going to be able to fend off necessarily, but you can prepare for it and have a good plan in place. I always recommend for clients to have a crisis communications plan, because that just makes life a little bit simpler when you do end up in a situation. It's making sure that you're prepared. It's making sure that you're always focused on the well-being of people and being transparent. And even if it's something that's a crisis or reputation issue and media is wanting to get stories or continue to connect with you, making sure that you're being clear and open with them to say, we will give out an update every day at this time, or certain things like that, because then you control the expectations and the narrative a little bit with that. And just, taking ownership of things and working to fix things. And if it's a bad reputation, understanding why it's there, what put them there, and then trying to figure out, was it intentional? Was it accidental? And intentional doesn't mean that they wanted the bad reputation. It just means maybe they weren't making the decisions that were going to be in the best interest. So figuring out how to circle back and build, that trust back with business partners, clients, customers. So I've not had to go into those scenarios, but I've been in response crisis situations, whether it's hurricanes, whether it's been a medical emergency at a company. You have those, and first and foremost is always the well-being of anybody around or impacted. And that has to always be the primary focus of things.
Well, that speaks volume anyway. Well, regardless of your reputation, if that's at the forefront of your priorities, then that speaks volumes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not to say you're not working on some of those inner workings or those strategic plans behind the scenes, but making sure that you're doing right by anybody. If there was a medical emergency, making sure that person and anybody that was in the area, whether it was a traumatic experience or something, just making sure to help move those people through what they need to get through it. But then also, having a team that's working behind to say, okay, what happened? Where did things go wrong? How can we fix it? What can we say? type of process. And of course, when you have crisis, you usually have legal involved. So public relations and legal teams have to also have a great balance with each other and work well together, because you need each other. Legal would want to just close things and in many cases down because it's just safer to not say anything sometimes. But you have to build that public trust and reputation again. The court of public opinion is one of the strongest ones around. And so you have to be able to balance and kind of meet both needs.
Yes. I'm glad you said the legal and PR really need to work closely. Again, one of those things that a lot of us just don't think about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you do. You have to.
Do you see like any new trends coming out for PR right now?
I don't think
marketing.
I don't think that there's anything necessarily new outside of, just watching technology and how it's being used, seeing how trending things are. You can't force a trend, especially when it comes to videos or social media, but just understanding, when you see things that are popular, trying to incorporate that if it makes sense in what you're doing. So I don't see anything necessarily outstanding, just trying to better understand the technology and opportunities that are available to us, because there's just so much. And, there's a lot of noise out there for businesses to get through to their target audiences. So making sure that they're understanding what that is and how to get through that. And that's where PR and marketing, and people like to say they're two separate things. And in a sense they are, but they have to work together. You can't do one without the other and be successful.
Right. You mentioned forcing the trend. I suppose there are a few social media creators that could force a trend, but that being said, what's like one of the biggest mistakes that you've seen either a small, medium, or large business make in PR and marketing?
It's probably not listening to their audience, probably not taking into account what is being said. And that's how you read those trends. That's how if you have a trending video or post or anything, it's understanding what your audience thinks of that and knowing how to move forward with that, and taking the advice of the experts that understand how that works. I'm big when it comes to companies taking stand on charitable or community-oriented things. I think that's a big, big part of it. But when it comes to some polarizing topics or political, things of that nature, I always try to get companies or clients to stay kind of neutral in their expression or exposure on that, because your target audience includes people of all backgrounds and sides. And when you start to take a hard stand on something, it alienates, part of your audience. And while, yes, you might gain a few new people because they like what you're saying or doing, you could lose a significant amount. And that's what you want to say, low-hanging fruit. People that are already with you already know you. And it's much easier to work with them than it is to bring new people in the door. So just making, the right decisions when it's promoting their company and brand, and listening to their audience, and making sure that they're not taking any actions that polarize or alienate one side or the other.
Listen to your audience and don't polarize to one extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, very valuable. Very valuable.
Yeah.
Is there like one piece of marketing advice? If you could say, I'm going to wrap this whole show up with one good piece of marketing advice or PR advice, what do you think it would be? It's
relationships. You can't just relationships and being genuine, and to form those and understand those, whether it's your employees, whether it's your partnerships in business, you're collaborating with other, businesses, whether it's your customers or clients. Relationships are so important for any of the success. People think of you if you are on a board with somebody or in a committee with somebody, they get to know you and build that relationship and that foundation so they understand you. So it really is relationships is my biggest thing. And then, for people that are in PR, holding true to themselves and protecting their personal brand is making sure that, you're following your training and your ethics and your moral responsibilities. And if something doesn't feel right, or if you're working for a company that doesn't value that, taking the steps, because at the end of the day, you have to account for your own brand. You are a brand just like the company is. And if you need to move to other clients or other businesses, you want to be able to proudly go through and show that you are somebody they can trust and work with, that's going to follow the line. Even if it's uncomfortable at times, you have to be able to have that integrity.
So true. If you're the trainer or nutrition expert, you better walk the walk and talk the talk, period.
Absolutely. Agreed. So. Yeah. You have to be able, people want to, believe and see that you're doing that and understand, this person knows what they're talking about. Look how healthy they are. Look what they're doing. Clearly they're doing something right. And so, they're not going to tell me to take something that's going to be harmful. So for sure.
Absolutely. So my guess is, I'm going to ask you, what's the next 5 years of your life? I think you're still going to be in an RV and you're going to have, fivefold of the clients that you have now.
I hope.
Because I think you will. I have a feeling you will. You've offered us some incredible insight and some very good information. So I don't see your business going down. I think it's going to go up. And if there's one thing our listeners have gotten from this, is that running a business from your RV is freaking awesome. So.
It's so awesome. It is so awesome. Like, even with your challenges, just like, it's still worth it no matter what. It's something I am very happy that we're doing, and it is so awesome.
Those challenges are growth steps.
Yeah.
They're exciting, whether it's leveling your trailer or whatever it happens to be, or finding water. It doesn't, those are life steps.
Yeah.
So tell us about your social media accounts, where everyone can find you online. Where?
Absolutely. So for the business, it's on, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And the handle is the same, Jess Lifestyle Marketing, JESS Lifestyle Marketing. And then for our travel, if people want to see what we do travel-wise too, it's The Walkers Wandering. So THEWALKERS Wandering. And we're only on Facebook and Instagram for those, but we post pretty regular there. I do need to say too, as a marketing and PR person, I focus a lot on my clients. So I don't post as much probably as I should on my business ones. I do a lot on the travel. But it's like the cobbler with his kids not having any shoes or something. You kind of focus on the clients and then your stuff's over here. Like, what about me? Are you going to promote your own business over here? So, I have to work more on that.
No, I get it. I had a custom home builder for a father, yet our house for the longest time just wasn't there where his clients were.
Yes,
I get it. So, you are focused on your clients, and that's clear, and that's how it should be. So, very good. Definitely. Is there anything you would like to leave the listeners with that we haven't discussed?
I think, just understanding what they want to do. I know everybody always says, I want all the clients I can get, and I want to advertise to everybody, but it really is a very strategic process. And that's where, somebody, whether it's myself or somebody else that understands the PR campaign planning process, communications process, can help you find out, okay, well, you want to increase your sales by how much this year? Okay, well, let's start with that as a goal. And, understanding what their goals and their target audiences are. And like I said, sometimes you can just look up, ways to understand that or how to figure that out and kind of just build a plan from there. But, if you can reach out and have the opportunity to work with somebody, that's always helpful, because there's multiple steps in that process and ways to kind of evaluate and change as you're going along.
Bringing an expert on like yourself is I think the pathway to find the right clients, not the wrong clients, the right clients, because the right clients don't just make you money, they make life pleasurable. Yes,
absolutely. You have to enjoy what you're doing and who you're working with, whether it's a company or your own business. Life's too short not to. You've gotta be happy and live in the moment.
For sure. Jess, this has been super, super insightful. I'm so glad we had you on today.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed hearing about Jess's amazing story today. She brought up 3 very important takeaways. First, the power of relationships and authentic engagement is paramount. Second, adapting to change and embracing new technologies is crucial, and may I add, to any business. And third, internal marketing and workplace culture are equally important, which I couldn't agree more. You can find out more about Jess at jesslifestylemarketing.com. Thank you all so much for spending the last hour with us.
This episode is made possible by Travelfy. Want reliable internet without the hassle? Meet Travelfy. It's portable, high-speed Wi-Fi that's ready to go wherever you are. From road trips to remote cabins. No tricky setup or permanent location required. Just plug in and you're connected. And here's the best part. No contracts, no commitments, and no reactivation fees. Pay only for the months you need. Travelfy connects to the strongest available signal among multiple major networks, so you stay online with confidence, backed by a US-based support team that knows the outdoor lifestyle. Travelfy, simplifying internet while you travel. Visit travelfy.com today. That's TRAVLFI.com. Listeners can save 15% with code RVE at checkout.